Hey, and welcome to Eat Out at Home, the podcast. This is the place for those with exquisite taste who are on a mission to cook better, eat healthier, dine together, and add some gourmet to their everyday. I'm your host, Chef Evelyn, and on this podcast, we talk about all things food, cooking, baking, and entertaining as I share stories from my well-seasoned career as a professional chef for over 20 years. So, if that sounds tempting to your taste buds, grab a snack, sit back, relax, and let's dive in. Hey, and welcome back to another episode. And today, I just want to share with you kind of like in my I'm back, let me tell you what's going on with me and Eating Out at Home series. I just want to share with you kind of what I'm going to be doing to prepare my kitchen as far as, eating out at home and my goal of eating out at home 6 days a week. I mean, it's 5 to 6 days a week, but it's at least 6 days a week, right? And so, before I shared about kind of like why I stopped cooking for 7 years, if you didn't catch that episode, and then I went into kind of like some things that, I kind of like my plan moving forward as I'm back on this journey and really loving being back in the kitchen and cooking again. And then I also kind of share some things that kind of like keep me on track that I have to be mindful of. So if you haven't listened to those episodes, please go back and listen to those. You might find some inspiration there or some things that help you if you too are on a similar journey. But today I kind of want to deep dive a little bit more into one of the parts that I mentioned, which is about having a prepared kitchen. I kind of talked about in my last episode about really having to have, a stocked pantry and a stocked freezer so that when I do go to the grocery store, I'm mainly like popping in and out for like highly perishable items, like produce, and it's a quick trip, right? So that it doesn't feel like this huge labor intensive, I've got to make all this time to go to the grocery store. It's like, girl, you need some fruit, some vegetables, some herbs, maybe a couple of, maybe some eggs and some almond milk, and you can slide out of there, right? And so I kind of just want to lean into a little bit more about really preparing my kitchen, because in addition to having a really well-stocked freezer and then a really well-stocked pantry, is also making sure that I have the right tools for the right job. And that phrase is like burned into my subconscious, because when I was in culinary school, I had a lot of old school chefs, right? I mean, chefs that had been cooking for 30, 40 years, very old school. I had a chef that we had class at 6 a.m. in the morning, and he was from Germany, and I think he was like in his 70s. And, we were like, "Chef, what's in your thermos?" And he was like, "It ain't coffee." So, what I'm saying? He had a little adult beverage, a little libation, if you will, a little vodka, basically. But anyway, one of the things that was always repeated to us when I was in culinary school, and even when you get out into the industry, like it's so important, is like having the right tool for the right job. And I know for me, part of it, I think, is because I am a professional chef and, I like, the tools of the trade. I like having what I need. I don't like having to make it work or make do. But I also have found with, just teaching, cooking classes over the years and teaching so many people how to cook. I started teaching cooking classes in 2010. It's now 2024. So you can imagine the thousands of people that I've taught in cooking classes is that, one of the biggest frustrations when it comes to cooking at home is the prep. And there's a couple of different reasons why that is. But one of the reasons is if you don't have good tools or the right tool, it can make a job longer and more difficult than it needs to be, right? And, let's just take something as simple as a quality knife. If you do not have a really quality knife and you do not have a sharp knife, cutting up fruits and vegetables or cutting up your proteins is going to be a nightmare. It's going to take longer than possible. You're going to shred things in the process. It's just not going to be great. And so for me, I'm also looking at, okay, I live in Texas, right? When it comes to the summertime, I don't always want to turn on my oven. So for example, I'm probably going to purchase a toaster oven, right? Because there are things that I want to do in the oven, but when it's 112 degrees outside, literally, I don't want to turn on my whole giant oven just because I want to heat up this one thing. And so I'm really going to be going through and auditing my kitchen. I already kind of have like a preliminary list of things that I want to have, whether it's small appliances, gadgets, whether it's ingredients or things I want to have in the freezer. So things for the pantry, all that, or just, tools of the trade that I want to have easy access to. I am going through and creating like prepping my kitchen, having a prepared pantry for this lifestyle of eating out at home. And so let me know if you want me to share that with you, or I may go ahead and create it. And by the time this episode airs, if I've created it, I will link it in the show notes. But it's just a list of, I know how I like to cook. I know how I like to eat. I love cuisines from all around the world. The more complex the flavors, the better for me. Some people like really simple, pared down, lightly seasoned food. That is not me. I like lots of vinegars. I like a variety of oils. At the recording of this episode, I think I have over 50 spices and spice blends in my pantry, and I don't feel like it's enough, right? So that's the kind of person I am. I like a variety of flours and grains. I like a lot of different things. So I want to make sure that I have easy access to those things. Listen, I like different types of salt. Let's just talk about that. Like currently right now, I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 types of salt that I use, right? There's like 3 or 4 more that I want. So make me feel like I've got everything that I need. And I mean, like, salt is not going to go bad. So, let me live, if you will. But, really walking through my pantry, my freezer, my kitchen tools, gadgets, things like that. And kind of creating if I were to eat gourmet every day, if you will, what would I need to have on hand? And so, I'm going to be doing that list for myself. If you would like a copy of that, or if you want me to do that and it's not in the show notes, then I will be more than happy to do that. And then also some things that I have that I really enjoy. But like I have a Vitamix, I have a food processor, but like I want a juicer. Right? Like I want a juicer because, like I was mentioning in a previous podcast episode, that sometimes I like having a green juice with my breakfast or with my afternoon snack. And so sometimes I kind of want to make my own combination because I don't like celery in my juices. And a lot of green juices have celery in it. And I'm like, no. Listen, shout out to those of you who like celery in your juices. And shout out to the folks who can drink straight celery juice, because it's not your girl. When I tell you, if I see celery juice, I'm not getting it because I can't taste anything else. If you put celery in my green juice, I can't taste anything else. Okay, listen, you could put spinach in there, you could put kale in there, you could put cucumber in there, you could put apple, you could put a lot of things, but baby, don't you put no celery in my green juice. Anyway, I said all that to say that I want a juicer for the sole purpose of avoiding celery in my green juice. No, I'm just joking. But no, like I know that's a part of my eating lifestyle, right? And so I think about what I currently invest for juices, and I'm like, girl, you could have been bought, you know what I'm saying, a juicer. So like I also talked about the toaster oven, right? But I also, I really want to get back in the habit of using the microwave less and less. And so like I need to update my sheet pan game. You know what I'm saying? I need to update some of my storage containers. I love, I don't use plastic to store my food. I store in glass, but like some of my lids have gotten wonky, right? So upgrading that, making sure that I have like parchment and things like that on hand. So my different vinegars and oils and salts and seasonings and, what do I like to keep packed in my freezer, nuts and seeds and different things like that. So, and I do like to have a variety of, spices. I talked about that, but also, I really am excited to create an indoor herb garden because I've mentioned in a previous podcast, like I just love a fresh herb. And like I said, I don't know if I can think of a savory dish that wouldn't benefit from a fresh herb, almost regardless of the cuisine. You know what I'm saying? Like whether I'm finishing with the fresh herb or I'm mixing in a fresh herb, like a fresh herb is going to hit every time. I mean, there's probably some that I probably like, Evelyn, that doesn't need fresh herb, but why not? Okay. And so, also having all of that prepared and ready to go again, lowers the barrier for me to cook at home, right? Like it minimizes the resistance of like, Oh, I would make that, but I don't have this. Oh, I would do that, but I don't have this. Like, nope, girl, actually you got it. Because one of the things that I'm kind of committed to right now is that if I desire a dessert in my 6 days that I'm cooking at home, I have to make it. That's just my own personal parameter. And that's also because when I went to culinary school, I majored in both baking and pastry arts and culinary arts, right? And baking was my first culinary love. I started by baking. So, one, it's just a way to help me, continue to fall back in love with cooking and baking, to really pull out my cookbooks, but also to keep my skills sharp. But also it's like, okay, if I'm going to have something that, we consider, desserts are a treat, then I need to make it at home with my ingredients so that I know that, yes, I'm eating flour and sugar and butter and eggs and all of the things that, people may, deem as unhealthy, but I'm doing it minus the preservatives, minus this, minus that. I know exactly what's going in it, and I can create what I want. And what it does is it helps eliminates cravings, because if I don't want it bad enough to make it, then I don't really want it, right? So, but having those things on hand. And what's interesting is when I made, the elaborate cookies that I was telling you about from Claire Saffitz, which were so delicious. But when I finally did make them and put them in the freezer, I wasn't eating one every day. It took me like 2 months, I think, 2.5 months to, kind of a cookie here, a cookie there. And it was great because it was like, sometimes I wanted a cookie and it was like, you know what? I'd rather have one warm cookie than to go to the store and eat a pint of ice cream, right? Or to have a 4,000 calorie slice of cheesecake from the Cheesecake Factory. But yeah, and it was nice. Like, if people came over, I could bake them a cookie. Like, it was just wonderful. Can I just say, I wasn't alive during this time, but I've seen it in the movies and the TV shows that, like, it looked like in the 50s and 60s, it was just customary to have a cake or desserts ready to go so that you had something, just a little bit decadent, just a little bit enjoyable to share with people if they came over. And I personally think that that is a fabulous idea. Like, I want to live that kind of lifestyle. One, that people are coming over and I'm entertaining enough that it warrants me having something on hand, so that if they want to come over for a cup of tea and a little slice of pound cake, that it's a whole thing. Like, I'm really trying to live that life, right? So anyway, I digress. But yeah, that's really, going through, making sure my freezer is stocked with my proteins. If there are any kind of like, frozen carbohydrates, fruits. I really don't like frozen vegetables, nuts, seeds, anything else I need in the freezer. My, ice meals in case of emergency meals, and anything else that I can think of. Really packing my freezer with that, going through my pantry and saying, okay, what are the holes in the ways that I like to cook, the kind of cuisines that I enjoy, the kind of ingredients that I, grab for often, particularly from a baking standpoint, because there's nothing worse than wanting to bake something and be like, oh, I'm going to have this one ingredient. Because if I go to the store, then I'm probably going to buy the chocolate croissant that's there and not bake the thing that I want to bake, right? And even as far as my equipment and, my, small gadgets and appliances, making sure my knives are sharp, are there things that I'm missing that I really want to have? So, like, I want a stovetop smoker, okay? Because, again, I live in Texas, and when it's the summertime and it's 127 degrees outside, who cooking outside? Not me, okay? Not the way this heat is set up. For those of y'all in slightly cooler temperatures where it's only in the 90s. And trust me, if you live in Texas, you can feel me. I can feel the difference between 90 degrees and 100 degrees. It is a difference. Understand me. But, so, I want a stovetop smoker, right? I want a juicer, obviously I want an immersion circulator, things that I don't have. I want to update an ice cream machine. I do have an ice cream machine, but it's the kind where, like, you have to freeze the containers first and it's got the little spindle. No, I want the kind where I can just pour the liquid right in there and that thing's going to run and do that. So there, because I want to make sorbets. I want to make my own ice creams. Oh, and I want, a grain mill, like a kitchen countertop grain mill, because I really would love to make my own flours. I know I'm nerding out a little bit, but listen, you know what podcast this is, right? I told you before, this is not a 15-minute, 30-minute meals, sheet pan meals, air fryer meals, get dinner on the table quickly. This is for those of us who like the process of cooking, and sometimes the more elaborate, the better, right? This is for us. Okay. So listen, if you're listening, like, there's no way I want to make my own flour. Who's got time for that? I listen, I respect you, but you're going to be mad over here. Okay. You're going to be upset over here. This is for those of us who really are into the joy of cooking. No pun intended. Shout out to Julia Child. But anyway, so that's what this episode is about. I'm going to start working on that list ahead of time. Like I said, I already have a rough draft. And if you want a copy of that, let me know. If you're enjoying the fact that the podcast is back, if you're enjoying this episode, please take a screenshot, tag me on Instagram at @IsChefEvelyn. Let me know what you've been doing, some of your tips for preparing your kitchen to eat out at home, particularly as the summertime comes, because that's the time where you really want to be outside eating. Right. And this is also another time when I really think about, like, what do I like to eat in the summertime a lot? And how can I make that at home? And one of the things that I know I love in the summer, and it's because I live in Texas and I have for 20 years now, is tacos. I don't know what happens when the weather gets warmer. It's like the tacos arise from the depths of slumber and be like, girl, we missed you. Come holler at us, right? So I know that I love tacos. And so, having things on hand if I happen to want tacos, which makes me think I might want a tortilla press. Like I might want to make my own tortillas, but I digress. So yeah, if you've been enjoying the podcast, please, rate it, leave a review. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you are looking forward to. I've got an idea for a segment that I might want to include in the future, but I'll have to keep you posted on that for another day and another time. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will chat with you in the next episode. If you're enjoying this podcast, make sure to head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave it a review. And if you're curious about what I'm cooking in between episodes, make sure to stay connected with me on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, where I'm sharing delicious behind the scenes, grocery hauls, recipe inspiration, food for thought, and so much more. I'll see you in the next episode.